Okay, 2.1, I make a motion that we approve the agenda. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries 4-0. Going to move on. This is why we have this meeting tonight, is our information and action item 3.1. And we are going to have a brief overview of what we are voting on tonight from Dr. Foley, and I'll turn it over.
Thank you. So President Kaler, members of the board, thank you for your quick assembly here tonight. In the world of curriculum and instruction, we like to say, if we are not 6 months ahead, we're already a year behind. Already this year has given us some unique things that create opportunities for planning and forecasting in advance, very, very hard. So we're talking tonight about online instruction. So why are we here? So one of the things that I'm excited to share with you is that as of yesterday, June 30th, Higley submitted its AOI application. AOI stands for Arizona Online Instruction. So Higley was one of the few districts that did not have an online virtual academy. One of the things that we learned quickly at the beginning of June was that it was pretty clear that if we didn't have a virtual academy that had been application and submitted, that our students who chose to be remote only or virtual only, we would not be able to have a mechanism for collecting ADM, because the state has requirements and expectations for online instruction. So on Dr. Susan Borget's very first day, June 8th, we said hello and welcome. And by noon, she was working with a team of people who were working this summer to complete an extensive application so that we could submit this to the ADE so that Higley can become an online academy. Now, in that process, we learned some interesting things. One of the things that you do is an analysis of the kids who would have been your students over the last several years. How many of them may you have lost? So for last year alone, for the 2018, for that year, we had 131 students that could have been ours that attended, that we know of, that attended an online institution. So when you think about, we lost 131 students, and Mr. Holland says to the tune of about $4,359 a piece. We lost about $500 and rounded up $80,000 because we didn't have an AOI. No, so to have an AOI, you need to have a pretty solid online curriculum. When we take a look to around our surrounding districts, the majority of the districts use Florida Virtual Online. And one of the reasons they use Florida Virtual Online is it has some options. It allows you to use their management system. They have a management system called Buzz. And if you use their management system, the cost is a little bit more. Or it works beautifully with the Canvas management system, and it gives the option, you can choose an option to have, if you will, a library that for all grade levels, all content areas that they have entire online courses that you can use purely from start to finish, or you can part and pick and piece to use to support instruction online. So we, in our application, have to define that we are in the process of identifying an online curriculum. Currently, we have Canvas. As you know, we had Canvas as a learning management system that was really heavily used at secondary, and this year we made huge strides in secondary. One of the things we quickly learned after remote learning happened in March was that we needed a learning management system also. We needed a common learning management system K-12, because without a common management system, parents and students, and you heard from them, and so did our principals, and so did our teachers, you'd get an email with a PowerPoint, with a link, and you need to go to Teams, and you'd have to download it and create your assignment and email it back. And so, again, it's not all in one place. So as we shared with you and in our board summaries, and as we shared with you a couple weeks ago, we had Canvas ambassadors at all levels working to train up and to build content so that we have curriculum in Canvas, and we do. So that's a wonderful thing. Now, One of the things that happened is because we don't have an AOI until we have an application that was just submitted yesterday, districts that had this AOI were able to quickly, and you will see, quickly expand from just their online for their teachers to all of their teachers, because with the fact that virtual learning, obviously the governor has shared, in-person learning will not happen until the 17th. So for any district who wants to open earlier, online curriculum is going to be important. It quickly became clear to me when I saw that all of the Valley districts that had an AOI in place had expanded these resources for all of their teachers, so that those who have a Canvas management system could use the parts and pieces to enhance their instruction. So urgency and importance in timing here. What you have before you tonight is a request, a proposal to purchase this supplemental curriculum to support our AOI, and also for teachers who are teaching with these core areas where these exist to be able to use these resources, similarly to all of their colleagues in other districts who already have AOI at this time. Yes, our teachers have worked very hard. They have Canvas curriculum ready to go. They have modules that they have created, but they have created them from scratch and are pulling those parts and pieces together with their existing resources. This does not replace the adopted curriculum. What this is some pre-made curriculum units that teachers could use to put in place so that they're not creating everything from scratch again. So an online curriculum are required to have, and this is what would be a comprehensive K-12 online curriculum for an AOI, but this also will allow our teachers to have the same kind of electronic toolbox in their online curriculum that the neighboring districts have now for their teachers, because they expanded it, because they already had an existing AOI in place. So again, this is a tool to support the work that's been done, not a adopt and must use to be done. It'd be a resource for. Questions for me?
Looking over at the website, I do have a couple of questions. Maybe if you could start with who was on the task force. I'd like to know that it was a group, who the group was, if you could do that. And a couple other questions, if you could just share with us in reference to the fine arts component. Is music or special education or anything like that, is there resources at this site too as well, or do the teachers have to be creative in reference to that?
Good questions. So a couple things. One of the things is that this was created really quickly. This, unlike a traditional adoption that would have large committees that we review this for multiple months with the 60-day review, this, of course, did not go through this process. The committee that worked together was some instructional coaches, our new director of assessment, looking at an assessment of what exists out there that works in our current management system. So that was the group that kind of made this recommendation. And what we quickly found is that when we looked at all things that exist out there, this one was probably the most affordable, but it was the one that worked with our existing system. And we also saw that virtually everyone around us is using this. So it also offered the most amount of electives, if you will, compared. You'll see that it doesn't include everything. You saw those lists of, there's the elementary, there's the secondary, there's some enrichment opportunities. The one thing that this does is, and this is not a one-size-fits-all for everybody. And so there are some, as you saw in the elementary, when they have some art, they have some PE, they have some electives in the secondary one. They are not all-encompassing, and so this will not be a plug-and-play for all of our teachers. It just provides provides more electronic resources to our teachers at this time with what exists, and the same tools that our neighboring districts who already had AOIs would have for theirs. So it is truly a quick adoption with what fits best with what we have, trying to get our AOI application ready to go, and hence truly different than a core major adoption that would be a long process with multiple stakeholders and 60-day review. It's a different process but this is from our glance and research on all things out there, AOI, and I will tell you, the application requires you to go pretty extensive on what does this look like and how will it be. Our knowledge of what is out there, this is the most comprehensive one that worked with our system for us to use.
I did look at their website, and I did do some research on it, and it's been around for some time.
It has.
And I like it.
Good.
And thank you very much for bringing that to
Yes.
us. Okay.
And we will acknowledge that there is no perfect curriculum.
I understand.
And we're just wanting to make sure our teachers have, especially at this time, the same tools. Yeah. Thank you.
Dr. Foley, just a couple questions. How long does an AOI typically take to be implemented or approved?
Okay, so this is an interesting process because this year, because of the fact that they expanded and extended this application process, and that was one of the reasons why it came to the end. It's a modified process this year because there are so many groups, and again, it's kind of like building the plane while you fly it. The funding mechanisms, the legislature hasn't changed. This is the one that's in place. There's going to be an extensive process this year. Probably in the middle of the year, according to the timeline, they will come and sit down with us to audit and inspect. What is your curriculum? How does it? So all of the things that we put in here to be approved will be inspected before they grant it. Now, the good news is, ours looks identical now to every other public school who has an AOI. This was an urgency because of the situation, but when we look at this is a long-term opportunity for Higley to have now an online virtual academy, K-12, with a comprehensive online curriculum for our students so that we won't lose 130, last year 131. And quite honestly, with our survey, families have told us there's potentially 25%, maybe more, who are not going to, if we're able to come back into the building, may not choose to. And so now we have a comprehensive curriculum to support in our Canvas management system for them, and have a way for us to capture that ADM and not lose our own students.
Right.
So
The other question I too, Mr. Witovich was talking about electives, and this is the hard one, especially in our, upper grades. Welcome to Higley. And I know that that's still an ongoing conversation that we're all having, and how we're going to have electives offered in our secondary. And these are, they're graduation requirements for some of them. So I know that that's going to be. I know you were planning. Was the meeting today that what we were talking about earlier today?
Yeah, absolutely. President Kaler, members of the board, for the electives, we still have the Canvas process, and the individual teachers in those elective areas would be working with Canvas to make sure they're building curriculum and putting that in Canvas and using it the same way we did in the past, and they've worked on that over the summer too. So we will have elective opportunities for our online to start out, but if you're choosing to go 100% virtual, then there will be some electives that may not be offered.
Correct. Go ahead.
I was just trying to get the picture of our plan as it stands today. I know it may change. So we have the virtual academy as school starts up, okay? Then let's say sometime in the future, school opens up and you can return back to school, whereas other students decide I'll continue with the academy. Who's going to be teaching? Is the same teacher going to be teaching both the students that are in the academy and the students? So if you could let me know how what our thoughts are.
what our thoughts are?
Yes.
Let me start to explain, and I will ask my colleagues to interrupt me if I misspeak on anything. So essentially, one of the things that's important is that families have been asked to say, let us know, do you want to return to the building, or do you, if whatever that may look like, whenever that may look like, or are you not planning on ever coming at this point back into schools because you would prefer to stay home in remote only? When parents are identifying that they want remote only, and again, we've had of the responses so far, a good close to 25% say, at this moment, and again, they may change their mind, but on today, this is what they're saying. So one of the things that we're trying to do now is to do a match with our staffing and the numbers of students. So for instance, In a school building, when we have so many, I'm going to use second grade for an example. If I have second grade, obviously so many, we have our appropriate ratios for classrooms in our district. So one teacher, 25, 28 students, right? We would assign that to an in-person classroom. When we're remote, if you're planning on returning to the classroom, the teacher who you would have in the classroom would be who your remote teacher is at this time, right? When you return into the classroom, your teacher, that teacher who you've had in remote, would be your in-person teacher. Now, the important thing is their Canvas page continues to be maintained, because and this tool that we just bought may help that teacher plug and play some things in there, so that whatever I'm doing within class instruction, I now have, if you were not here, some modules and units without having to recreate them in the Canvas platform for you to stay up to date, so that when you return to the classroom after being ill or sick for any reason, you go back to the in-class classroom. Now, let's say I'm a second grader and I want online only. So what we're looking at is how many of those teachers are there, and we're going to identify a teacher who would be teaching online only, and she may have, or he may have, students in second grade from, let's say, Cortina and Power and Centennial all together, because we're not bound to a room. We're now bound to a grade level, and that person would be assigned those students who identified we want remote only for facilitating it. So we're trying to figure out with what we know right now, and again, parents have questions. There are some specific things we're trying to work through, like what are the online electives, what offerings do we have, what do those schedules look like, now that we know that we aren't starting, we were working really hard to figure out what in-person might look like on the 27th if we could. It's not happening. So adjusting that with what does that look like and who are we matching with. So essentially next week, if you will, there's going to be a heavy matchmaking happening in the number of staffing with what we know, and following up with families to get clarity on that as we work through what we can and can't offer with these resources at this time. So that's kind of how that would work.
The college, you have your options of the 3 classes. You can have online only classes, and then you can have a hybrid where you go one day a week and the following week, and then you can be in person. So it's same as in college now, I guess. Yep. Same option. So it is workable.
It is.
It's happening.
It's just different than how we've done it before.
Yeah, just to reference that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the work you're doing on this. This is a huge task,
Our team, our administrators, our amazing teachers who are going to come back and embrace this and work with us. I mean, sure. We're fortunate for the caliber of professionals that we have across the board here in Higley, but this is definitely a lift.
Yes, thinking outside the box. So thank them all for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we're moving quickly.
And Dr. Foley, on the same note of when a student has chosen online and for some reason they have changed their mind and they want to come in person, we will have a spot for them on their home campus.
Yes.
I want to make sure that's correct? Yes.
Yes.
Obviously, it would be a different teacher.
Yes.
But because of the lessons on Canvas, they would just slide right into that class and go.
That's one of the really nice things about the curriculum. Again, it's aligned to our standards. So whether you're in face-to-face, when we're working on these particular standards, utilizing our adopted materials, or you are online, aligned to the standards using those curriculum materials, we're teaching teaching standards and content the same, so that again, we would obviously have to assess and monitor where you're at, but we're going to be able to be common in our instruction. Our tool or curriculum may vary.
Go ahead. I just have 2 more things, and then, or do you want to go? Okay. Well, I'll save one for later, but speaking of Canvas, and I know, I haven't looked. I'm asking, do we have some Canvas how-to for parents out on our website right now?
And they're adding and creating more. So yes, we do have some, and the need for that is only going to grow.
I was just going to start sharing with my friends and parents, like if you want, you can go on YouTube even and start looking at the how-to to Canvas and start getting your student. I mean, our secondary kids are more savvy on it now, but our elementary kiddos, I'm kind of encouraging them, go look on Canvas and check it out and go to YouTube and just so that we can get that out, because I know that we don't want that on the first day to be any kind of hang up.
President Kaler, I just
Yes.
shared with Dr. Foley today, Maricopa Community College has everything that you just asked for, a page for parents and community and things everybody wants to know about how the Canvas. So I shared that with her today, as a matter of fact, so they're going to.
Perfect. Mrs. Reese?
I can't say how much I appreciate everything you guys do. It can literally change minute by minute, and I liked your analogy earlier. We're creating a brand new roadmap, and we start creating roads and paving roads, and then the governor or someone comes in and says, oh, that road is closed now, and that's no longer an option. And I want our community to understand that this is a lot of work, and you guys are working really hard. It is not ideal for virtual or remote learning. It is not how the majority of the age groups that we serve, it is not how the majority learns. There is a purpose, and for some, this is very valuable too, and it is a better learning tool for some, but not the majority. Not to mention, the National Association of Pediatrics is saying we need to get these kids in person. There is so much more that is happening to our kids than the lack of academics. And so I appreciate you. I know you were here all weekend and working, and right now you're only supposed to be working technically 4 days a week, and you were here all weekend trying to figure out what is best for our students and our staff at the moment. We've been dealt a hand, and we have to play it. So I appreciate also considering the fact of looking at the future. We have talked about a virtual academy for some time. We do have students who will find that of value where they may not need it 100%, but you have some of those kids that are either excelling in high school and all their schedules are one-off classes, and maybe the classes they need are only offered during the same class period. Or you may have that student who just struggles in a particular class, and that having that option to take that online may be a better option for them. So I appreciate you looking at it from the aspect of this is not just for the first couple weeks that we can't have in-person learning, and that we will be able to utilize this in the best interest of all of our students in our community. The cost of this, is that an annual cost, or is this a cost of what you purchase you get, and then you pay a fee for updating? How is that?
So what we're purchasing right now is a number of licenses for K-12 students, like 13,500. So one of the things is that this year it's going to be more expensive because we're buying this for everybody. It's like an annual license. You're buying the right for their curriculum. And what they do is anytime and every time they update it, it stays that way. Then you can adjust that accordingly so that in the future, this annual cost can go down. One of the things I think, this was kind of a telling thing that when we did the analysis, that it's going to cost us approximately $400,000 for everybody to have access to the licenses for this. In the future, we will now have, when our AOI is approved, and we will have an online virtual academy so that any student who wants to be online can be online, and we can keep our own students. And we have now a collection of curriculum, but we can adjust that down at the time when it's only online students. I mean, looking at the fact that if you were to round it up, about $575,000 was lost. The cost of this for everybody is less than what we lost for that 131 students. Again, it is an interesting charge purchase for us for this year specifically, with the need for everybody to have access to virtual pieces, and hence why districts that already had this went ahead and expanded their normal licensure to thing. But it is like an annual license thing, kind of like Canvas is, kind of like others. No, Canvas is one of those licenses that we've also expanded, and it's about $8.37 a student, but again, it gives us a common management system. The good news is anything and everything we create in Canvas is ours forever. Anything we put in there is yours as long as you have the licenses for that.
President Kaler, members of the board, if you break it down at the cost per student, it's about $30 per student per year, or a little less than $1 a week per student.
Perfect. And then just clarifying that we are not changing our curriculum.
No.
So anyone who's watching, we are not changing our curriculum.
Nope.
This will be an online tool that teachers will have to supplement. It will be very valuable when we physically cannot be in the classroom, but when we can return to the classroom, we are not teaching an online curriculum in the classroom. We are staying with the curriculums that we have adopted. We will still use those. This is just an added tool to help while we cannot be physically in the classroom.
Thank you for clarifying that, because again, this is not replacing the curriculum that our teachers have had or are using. This does not override what they have created in Canvas. This is simply giving all of our teachers the same electronic library to use to enhance what they have or have created that's aligned to their standards, so that they have the same tools that every other colleague they have in the East Valley who has an AOI, they now have the same tools in their toolbox. And that became an urgent recognition this weekend, that we realized not only do we need to put this in place for the AOI, we want to make sure our teachers have the same tools.
My final question is on our AOI. You had mentioned the application was submitted yesterday. There's clearly a process of approval. You said at some point they'll come in and they'll audit.
Make sure.
And given the state of our state right now, I'm assuming that we're able to operate under this AOI. We're able to count and collect ADM for our students through the approval process.
Yep. That is indeed correct. If you submit the application, they will then, and again, being that we are a public school, we are in good place here to utilize this as an operating but again, had to submit the process to get this to be official. But yep, correct. And then they confirm that you are doing what you said you do. Yeah.
Thank you. Mrs. Wilson.
I got to play with this a little today. They gave us a little login, so we got to look around. It was kind of cool to see. I discussed it with Dr. Thomason and Dr. Foley today, and it was a great piece to see a different way of learning, which I thought was great. You got to see a different instructor. They had videos. You got to see a different instructor instruct you. So if your teacher isn't maybe clicking, some kids don't tend to click with the teacher, so it was kind of nice to see that click. And also I thought about the idea of substitutes. When we do have a substitute, if our teacher is out for those 14 days because of COVID, a substitute could easily jump in and teach some math, I think, because I would not be equipped to handle math classes in some levels. I'm sure I could teach kinder math, but above that I might be a little worried. And so I thought that was a really nice tool that we can utilize for those substitutes coming in and not knowing maybe how we teach math nowadays, and here's a video. Hey, we can show you, let's step through this together. So I did think that was a very cool tool for a substitute to even be able to learn from and be able to instruct from, if that makes everybody feel really good. It was kind of nice to see. And Mr. Lutenhauser I'm sorry. I tried really hard without mumbling.
Lotzenheiser.
Lout? Oh, wait, what? Louts? Lots? Okay.
Because
I
he's
heard you had
lots
this
taller.
at your old school and that maybe you could share some experience of it.
Yes, in my
Thank you.
experience that in my previous district, we've had it for about 5 years. It's been used in multiple ways. I've had experience as an administrator and then as a parent whose kids are going through it right now in summer school. I think the delivery method and modality of how they're working through them, they get through it, they go at their own pace, they can get a lot of the information and get feedback from there. As an administrator, not only do we have it on our AOI, but also in our credit recovery classes. And one thing about the license that we're getting is we have the ability to manipulate it the way that we need to manipulate it. So if I'm looking at a credit recovery model, I don't have to include everything that they have. We find what the kids need, and we include that in the model. And I think that's an area that we're looking to supplement instead of using other programs that we might have considered before, because now we have access to it, and it's all inclusive. Additionally, I think because it's been in place for a few years, as you go further with the AOI, then you offer more flexibility for kids in terms of on-campus and online, and perhaps combinations of both of them. I'll be honest, I don't think we're ready for that yet, but I think we're moving in that direction for being able to find ways for kids who might be struggling in different things or different life situations. We've been able to use it when kids, unfortunately, had something where they're not going to be in school for a quarter, but perhaps we could use it through the AOI, get it. And I think what's important when we're looking at the high school aspect is how are we assigning credit for the credit work that's being done. And so when we look at this idea of kids coming in at a quarter or kids coming at a semester, it's really because we're going to be assigning that credit at the end of the semester. And so how consistent are we in covering those different standards? And so I know when we were going through this process and having our discussions, I'm very much an advocate saying that this is a tool that teachers could use and teachers could get into. And I look forward to continuing to see how it can evolve to give opportunities for students.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns or comments?
This is a wonderful program, and I'm looking forward to having it come into our community. Do we have any plans or thoughts to not only our current students, but there could be students that reside in the Higley Unified School District? Can we make those families aware of it too as well, as far as to come to us, that we have a great option for them?
President Kaler, members of the board, we can definitely blast this out on social media and through some of our apps to make sure that this is known far and wide, that students not even within our district are able to come and take advantage of the Florida Virtual Learning School within the Higley Unified School District if they would so choose.
Great, great idea. Okay, any other questions?
I think I heard Mrs. Wilson volunteer to teach kindergarten. Is that?
I can teach kindergarten, but that's it.
If
No
we have,
payment, though.
If
No
we have a
payment.
substitute issue,
No payment.
I think I heard
Only
Mrs. Wilson
kindergarten, though.
volunteer.
Anything over kindergarten, they might know more than I do.
I made the mistake of going through some algebra things, and I thought, oh, I am not smarter than a fifth
That's
grader.
the one I went through as well. I was laughing at algebra. That's the one I picked as well. And I was
should've
like, oh,
stuck to
okay,
the
that's
little-
how I should have taught that, not the way I taught it to her.
Kinders, I love our kinders. Yes. All right, so because this is going to be a vote, we are going to now move on to 3.2. And I make a motion to approve approval to purchase the Florida Virtual Online Curriculum for grades K through 12.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. And again, I know that Mr. Glover did meet with Dr. Thomason and Dr. Foley before he left town. So even though he's not present with his vote, he was very, excited as well about this program and got all the same information that we all received. So thank you for that. And with that, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Good evening.